What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Trill Bro Dude, and today I am very excited to have back onto the podcast, officially for the first time, actually, Jack Michael coming onto the podcast. What's up, Jack? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm ready for sloppy season, baby. I need that sloppy.
That's right. Yeah, we're trying to revive slop season from the dead right now. Trying to literally just scrape the bottom of the fucking barrel for slop. Just get whatever we can get. Jack, the only reason I think that Sixers fans might know you, Jack, that listen to the podcast is because you are the Ben Simmons shoot a three, you coward dude. So yeah, I gotta say, that bit aged incredibly well.
You know, there's a Twitter account that no longer exists. Thank God that they were suspended. But they had a tweet. It was, the meme with the dominoes.
Yes.
It's and I don't remember who this Twitter user was, but again, very glad that they're gone.
I'm glad they're dead, whoever they are.
Yeah, whoever it is. And the small domino was like Twitter user Jack Michael 17 makes a joke on the internet, i.e. the coward thing, and the big domino was the greatest offense ever assembled plays 16 games together. So, which I think is way better than my original tweet, honestly.
I still I'm still blown away that Jack is here on a Sixers podcast 5 years later. This is like one of the biggest turnarounds. It's essentially like George W. Bush being invited into a rally. So very big turnaround for Jack here.
Yeah. Jack, do you have any paintings of anything that you want to show while we can repaint you as the war criminal that you are? And then also obviously we don't even have to introduce Sam at this point. Sam, you're regular on the pod now. Yeah. We have Sam, aka not NBA Baby Secret. So
that's not my handle because that would be illegal for me to be on Twitter under that name.
Yeah.
I've already been suspended, maybe twice, maybe 6 times. Every other. I think Sam Sheehan NBA might be back on Twitter now, by the way, too. So good for him. He found his way.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really shameful how they attempt to put, hardworking media members down like that. So I'm glad.
Absolutely.
It's Trumpian is what it is.
Yeah, it really is.
They normalized to Trump throwing people out of the press corps,
Yeah.
But
our descent into fascism.
Begins with the banning of NBA Sam Sheehan.
Have you guys seen that side by side of the Milwaukee Bucks, the America's slow slide into fascism described by the Milwaukee Bucks logos?
No.
And it starts with like a cute. There's like the old one's like a cute little thing, and then like as they go along, the buck gets like meaner and meaner. And, it is very funny.
And now the Bucks logo is just like very vicious looking and like very like cold, like no colors. Like
this is just like 1984.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which was the last time the Bucks won a title.
We need to bring back the 1984 Bucks logo so we can beat fascism.
Do you guys know that Chris Middleton was injured when they played the Celtics? It's hard information to find. You'll rarely see Bucks fans bring it up online, so I just wanted to make sure you guys knew about that.
What? Well, you guys definitely would have lost that series if Chris Middleton played. So.
Right, for sure. Absolutely. So it's important that we know that we bring that up all the time. Don't worry, I'm sure it'll go fine this year. There's no way we'll lose this. There's no way the Bucks will lose to us this year.
It's not like it's not like Chris Middleton had a history of like schlonging the Celtics or anything.
Yeah, I think I pulled up the Chris Middleton versus the Celtics stats earlier this year, and it was like I think it's like 36% against other teams from three in his career, and he shoots 48% against the Celtics.
I think his true shooting percent. I think I looked this up against the Celtics for his career. I think his true shooting is in like the 70s on jump shots.
It's unbelievable.
Amazing.
He literally turns into peak Kevin Durant versus the Celtics, which what a transition, folks. What a perfect way to introduce what we're talking about today, which is our beloved Boston Celtics. So boys, we got get in the war room. We got to talk about this. RCs, as Bostonians this room, we need
all of us. All of us.
Three
We've
of
all
us.
lived in Boston quite a bit.
Yep, especially Jack and me. We need to discuss the Kevin Durant rumors that were going around earlier this week. So, starting up top, and this is something that I talked to you guys about pre-podcast. Do we even think that the Nets want to do this deal? Because everyone's been focusing on the Celtics side of things on podcasts. But do you guys think that Sean Marks or whoever leaked this was just because it's pretty obvious the leak came from the Nets side? Yeah. There's no reason for the Celtics to leak it and potentially fuck up their chemistry. There's no reason for anyone except for maybe KD's camp just to kind of push the envelope a little bit further. But it's pretty obvious that the Nets were the ones that leaked this. So do you guys think that they leaked it because they're interested in a Jaylen Brown deal? Or do you think they leaked it because the deals they've been getting have been dog shit and they want a good deal?
I think it's both, to be honest. And my line pretty much since it became clear that Toronto was not going to put Scotty Barnes in a KD trade is they should just keep him. Like there's no reason not to, like it's not like what happened to the Nets last year was them becoming a 7 seed when everything went pretty okay. Like they were a 7 seed when in a nightmare season, when whatever you think of Ben Simmons, an all NBA guy did not play. The all-NBA guy, you flipped the other all-NBA guy.
All defense. I'll give you all defense. He's not all-NBA. He made all-NBA one time.
Yes, second team, right.
He made third team 1 year.
Oh, was the third team? Okay. Maybe
and speaking of Middleton, Bucks fans would argue Middleton should have made it that year. And I actually don't.
Jason Tatum.
Yeah. Right.
But anyway, I digress.
But anyway, high caliber. We could say high caliber all-star guy. Like
very good.
Usually a kind of a shoe-in for the all-star game.
Sure.
So that caliber of guy with a team that seems on paper. I mean, nothing is ever what it is on paper with Ben Simmons, but like on paper, the team that would hypothetically make the most sense for him. Kevin Durant missed like 40 games. Kyrie missed more than that, I think. Like it was a nightmare season and you could just run it back. I don't care how pissed everyone is. If everyone plays and you run it back, you've got a pretty good shot to win somewhere between 50 and 60 games. And if you're not playing the best team in the East in the first round, it's going to look way different. And you're going to have Ben Simmons. It just seems like that is so much more. And who knows? Like stuff changes fast in the NBA. Maybe Kevin Durant's like, all right, yeah, fuck, this is what I came here for. And everything's fine. That's way better than fucking taking Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder or whatever the hell like the Suns are offering at this point.
Can I interest you in Landry Shamet?
Yeah. Who they've had. They got him.
Yeah. I forgot. Landry Shamet gets traded so often, I forgot he was ever on the Nets because every year at the draft, they're like, oh, fuck, we got to trade Landry Shamet to another team.
He's been on like 12 teams and he's been in the league like 3 years. It's incredible.
Yeah. The Sixers Adam tweet that he does every time when Landry Shamet gets traded to a new team. He's like, Landry Shamet is 25 years old and he's played with Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. It's like the amount of players that he has played with in his career, only being in like his 5th season is absolutely incredible. And he should go back to the Nets is what I'm trying to say here.
He should. He absolutely.
Then he gets to play with, maybe he get to play with
Kyrie.
Oh, I guess he already played with Kyrie and Ben.
Oh.
So that's kind of against the point. But I think that there's truth to both things where, like you said, I think that there is truth to the fact that the Nets probably put this out there because the offer sucked. Like Mikal Bridges and a ton of picks does nothing for me if I'm trying to be a competitive team in a stacked Eastern Conference. And if I'm not getting a prospect like the guys that we mentioned, Sam, when you came on one of the streams, like I was like, I'm aiming for the fucking moon with this. Like I want Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, like Anthony Edwards. Like I don't want to get back a guy who I'm like, I feel okay about. And I think the lowest that I would be willing to go in terms of like, if you're getting an already good player, would be like that Jaylen Brown, Brandon Ingram tier of guys.
Right.
Where it's like pretty good, probably going to get better. Right now, they're all-star talents, and they at least have a shot at making an all-NBA team at some point in their career. And I can get down with that because my goal, without having my draft picks, is basically being a competitive team and once again a stacked Eastern Conference, trying to make the playoffs, trying to rebuild my culture or whatever the fuck that means, and kind of go from there. So, Jack, I guess I'll kick it to you because I already know Sam said that he could kind of go either way on this in terms of he said he could argue for the KD trade or against the KD trade. If you were Brad Stevens, the greatest actor of our lifetime.
Mm-hmm. You're starting a franchise. You could either pick Giannis or Brad Stevens. Who are you picking?
I mean,
right.
As GM coach, like GM slash coach, you can do both.
That's one of the best tweets ever. I fucking love that tweet. Was that Mannix? I think that was
Mannix. Yeah.
Why don't I have an idea? Actually, I have an idea that solves all of this. Why don't you guys just trade Brad Stevens for Kevin Durant?
Kevin Durant. Oh, yeah.
And then Brad Stevens on the Nets could trade back for Kevin Durant, and then get both.
As the GM slash coach there. Yeah. Steve Nash will be fired and he can become a professional TikToker with his wife, who I thought was his daughter when I saw
wait. That was his wife?
Oh yeah, his wife posts. Well, he has some TikToks that are with his daughter, but he posts a lot with his wife, and I saw that, and she's not that much younger than him, but she looks young. Mm-hmm. And forever, I just assumed it was his daughter who was forcing him to do these videos, but no, it's his wife. He's a wife guy, Steve Nash.
Wife guy.
Gotta hand it to him, you know.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't have the respect of the locker room. AD is an incel. He has no ability to jive with a wife guy. You're having regular sex. AD has no, you know, and Kyrie is a Spartan semen retention guy. So like, this is like very, like, it's kind of the worst case scenario. This is why you really got to consider coaching chemistry when you hire someone. Like, it seemed like a good hire at the time, but that's just terrible, you know. So
well, I mean, it's why Brad Stevens took the back seat, you know.
Right.
That's why Brad Stevens was like, I got to get out of here. You needed the man.
Yeah, an alpha.
We needed an alpha coach who fucked. That, like, I unironically believe, by the way, that they really did need, like, a coach who is not a huge baby.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, I mean, I'm very much in the camp that they only hired Steve Nash because they were like, his name's Steve. He was associated with the Phoenix Suns. Last time this happened, Steve Kerr was hired by the Golden State Warriors and they won a bunch of titles. So both point guards, you think about it like that, it's a no-brainer, right?
Right. And the player whisperer, like, I also heard he was like KD's guy, like because he was like with the Warriors and like player development or something like that.
Yeah.
Like when KD was over there. So the idea being like, hire your guys, you know. I don't know. Kenny Atkinson, man, getting respect. He's big dog on campus. He's ghosting the Hornets, doing all kinds of alpha shit.
Honestly, I would ghost the Hornets too right now. I don't really blame him for doing that.
You got the bullet, man. Didn't have to deal with the Mikal Bridges Miles Bridges thing. Like,
please don't slander Mikal Bridges.
Sorry, Mikal. I know you never.
But Jack, so if you were Chad Stevens, would you ultimately pull the trigger and trade Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant?
Oh boy, I was talking about this actually with somebody today, and they were like, "What is like, you know, would you feel good about? Like, what's the most that the Celtics could give up that you would feel good about?" And I actually, like, I legitimately had to think about it because I do, you know. at the end of the day, things like, team chemistry or continuity, especially for a team that just made the finals, I think matters, right? Like, I think that does matter. But then on the other hand, Kevin Durant is going, like, assuming he is traded, he is going to be the best player that has ever been traded in the NBA. And I don't think there's any deal that the Nets can even come close to winning unless they truly get like Zion and picks. You know what I'm saying? Like something like that, where you get like a legitimate, actual, like insane prospect who's still on his rookie deal. So to get to the question, I guess, like I wouldn't necessarily feel great about it depending on the package, which is ludicrous to say because it's Kevin Durant with 4 years left on his contract. But I think I would do it.
So I actually have gone back and forth on this because at first every trade that I've talked about so far has been, it's Kevin Durant. It's fucking Kevin Durant. Like we kept saying that over and over when we were doing the trade value list, when we were doing the streams, when we were doing everything. I was like, you just trade for Kevin Durant. It is hard. By the way, just a little side. I've been saying that too about Kevin Durant being the greatest player to ever be traded. Was it Kareem Abdul-Jabbar traded?
Yes, but that was literally before free agency was a thing. Like that was before free agency was in order.
So the best modern player that has ever been traded for sure.
Yeah,
like LeBron's never been technically traded. Sign and trades don't count.
No, sign and trades don't count. I looked this up when like the KD trade request came out because I knew that Kareem was traded. So the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar trade. So the Los Angeles Lakers acquired Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Walt Wesley from the Milwaukee Bucks in exchange for Elmore Smith, Brian Winters, Junior Bridgman, and Dave Myers.
Nice.
And that's it.
all players we know and love.
And so, yeah. So,
I guess KD's probably clear of him, but what was Shaq traded for?
I don't think he was traded. He was
traded for Lamar Odom to the Heat.
Lamar
Odom. That's right.
So actually, the only reason I remember that he was traded for Lamar Odom is because people have been bringing up the fact that when they called Miami for the trade, they were like, "Give us Dwayne Wade," because he was coming off his rookie season. He was incredible, and Miami was like, "We're good. We're not giving you Dwayne Wade," because we were like, if you're Miami, you're like, "What the fuck? Getting Shaq does nothing for us. Like, we're not good enough." If we get Shaq we're giving up Dwayne Wade. Right. So Riley was like, no. And he alphaed them. And then eventually they called back and they said, give us Lamar Odom. Was Caron Butler in that trade? Yeah. Caron Butler, Lamar Odom. And Caron Butler was still a pretty young prospect, if I remember correctly. It was like 2004, 2005. And like maybe like 2 first-round picks or something. It wasn't a lot. One,
Brian Grant.
Jesus, who else?
Brian Grant.
Brian Grant.
Jeez. No idea who that is. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. So Shaq was traded, but to be fair, it's kind of a similar situation to the KD situation, where Shaq was like
kind of demanding out lightly, like
and also
he was
more
32.
importantly, he was old. Yeah, like that was like even when Shaq got
34.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of a similar situation of like they're both past their prime, but like were recently very, very good. Like Shaq was the best player on a finals team a year and a half before he was traded. He literally not the season that they lost that year, but the season before that, best player on a finals team. And then the year before that was like dominating the Nets in the finals. And then the year before that was like the peak of his career in that Sixers season when they beat us in the finals and he won MVP and he was like incredible. Like, but that version of Shaq was certainly not like he wasn't even the best player on the Heat when they won the title. Right. Like Wade was the best player. Right. So kind of a similar situation if you think about it. Jason Tatum, Dwayne Wade, kind of in the same boat in terms of like young players. I think they were around the same age, like 24 years old or whatever. So getting a guy in Kevin Durant who, once again, it is Kevin Durant, but all of these things require context, obviously. He is 34 years old. He's played 90 combined games the last 2 seasons. He missed the before that. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
he missed the entire
90 over the last 3 seasons, which is not what you're looking for. Yeah. Didn't
He's
Zach
been
Lowe
hurt.
say like, oh, he tore his AC, like he tore his
It's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair to say that he missed time because he tore his Achilles. It's like what?
I would say that, absolutely.
It's quite fair, actually.
Yeah.
We were talking about how like available a guy will be to play. I mean, that's I guess that's my main thing, especially like if you're trading.
You can't hold it against Greg Oden for being hurt all those years. Like, he had a broken foot, and then he
just sucked.
Brandon Roy should be the 12th greatest player of all time just because of what happened to his
Ball don't stop. Still put him up there, but on his top.
I think that's the thing that people are forgetting too. Like, we have the recent example of LeBron. Wherever, who's a billion, he's he's 38 now or something I think
crazy that. Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh yeah, if you trade for Kevin Durant, 4 years left on his deal, it'll be fine. We've seen post prime guys do this. I don't think Kobe blew out his knee, but I don't think was he that bad?
No, Kobe was not that. No, Kobe honestly. When he tore his Achilles at the end, I think he was way younger than you think, younger than Durant is right now. I think he was 33.
Oh, really?
Because it was in 2012, wasn't it? I could have sworn it was that long ago.
It was, and then he had he played 3 more seasons or 4 more seasons after that. But hold on, let's see.
I was gonna say because I feel like Kobe is more of a. He was his 35 season is when he tore it. Only 16 played.
35.
He played 2 more after that. So he was 35 that year he tore it, and then 36 and 37 were the last 2 years.
But that last year, he could just not. He could not move.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Just of the recent guys, because I've been thinking about this a lot too, with how guys age now. Because LeBron is obviously the exception to almost every rule throughout NBA history. Probably just don't compare guys to LeBron. But Chris Paul's another guy who has aged very well. Kind of has a similar game to Kevin Durant in terms of lives in the mid-range, doesn't rely a ton on his athleticism. LeBron is that freak exception where he has somehow remained an elite athlete and he's almost 40 years old. That just doesn't happen.
Chris Paul's rim percentage is if you look at it, it's really insane.
It breaks your fucking brain. Dude, I talked about it on the last episode. Sometimes I just look at those Houston Rockets winning record when they had Harden and Chris Paul, and it's how did they ever break this team up? They were so, and now you look at fucking, they just literally are setting records. Everywhere he goes, they win. How many times has he won 60 games in a season? It's got to be at least 4 times.
Yeah, but, he's become just a playoff mercenary where everywhere he, it's not like he's ring hunting, but the teams that he goes to become contenders.
No,
yeah, exactly.
Sam Presti was get this shit out of here. No, I forgot what I signed up for. Oh my god!
Fuck, I thought you were washed.
Won a first round series with Lou Dort. Get out of here.
Well, I think about this a lot. Is he was probably pissed because they had that season, as we know, as Sixers fans, they had a top 20 protected pick that would not have converted if Mike Muscala doesn't hit that shot in the bubble to beat the Heat, and we get Tyrese Maxey because of it. And I think about Presti's probably I could have had another first. I could have had another one right in that range. Could have gotten, exactly. I could have had pick number 20. If that shot doesn't go in, Chris Paul made us too fucking good. But Chris Paul and LeBron, just historically speaking, there's not many guys past the age of 35 that are playing at an all NBA level. There's a handful of guys throughout NBA history. And of those guys, their skill set is kind of similar to Kevin Durant. I think that Durant, because of the shooting and his size and just his overall just craft, he will age pretty well. Now, when you're making this bet, if you're like, all right, we're going to trade our second best player who's 25 years old, this is something that I keep talking about, is like, we literally just went through all the bullshit to get to this point. Like years and years of like weird locker room stuff. Even though you guys were winning, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, there was still like some turmoil at certain points. Even earlier this year, like there was shit, and like they worked through all of that to
two
get
games under 500 in January.
Yeah.
Like,
have literally the greatest in-season like come up of any team in NBA history, to the point where they get to the NBA Finals after all of this.
They had
shit.
a lead in the finals. They were up 2-1.
I know. You're up 2-1 against the greatest team of the past decade.
Yeah.
And then you lose, and the optics of that are terrible if you trade Jaylen Brown, because of everything that we've talked about. Like, you've built up this identity, you've built up this culture, you've built up all this shit. You didn't trade Jaylen for guys who were better than Jaylen early in his career.
Allegedly.
Kawhi. Okay, so
I was gonna say,
we gotta talk about this.
I wanted you to do your bit, like when people want to trade you for Kevin Durant, but you're better than Kevin Durant.
That's the one I couldn't. That's the one I couldn't.
That was where you drew the line.
That's one I couldn't do. I couldn't do it.
But for those of you at home who don't know
Disrespect to
this,
God.
Jack has a history of making a post whenever Jaylen Brown was in trade rumors, which is like literally like 7 times.
You just it's I can look it up in a second. But
yeah, I mean, he was almost traded for 8. It was like AD, Kawhi, Jimmy Butler, Paul George. Like every time a guy was in a trade rumor,
an all-star wing,
like Ben Simmons, was available. He was in a trade rumor.
Can I address that a little bit though? Because I think that this is where the difference is kind of in the history, because what everyone loved to like beat Danny Ainge's ass for like never making a trade, and like it's like not true. Like he made the Kyrie, by the way, trade, and that's like one of the most damaging trades that like that's one of the most damaging moves the Celtics made. Like during
which trade?
The Kyrie Irving trade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that was like pretty damaging, because that led to signing Gordon Hayward, which led to the ankle explosion, which led to Al leaving, which led to Kyrie leaving, which led to
Robin Hayward
Walker,
and the cops,
which led to like it's a huge inflection point and everything. But like what like people forget is that everybody knew Kawhi Leonard was out the door. That's why he got fucking traded for DeMar DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl, because he had 1 year left on his deal. Was like, I'm going to LA. Everyone fucking knew that, and like only Masai had the balls to be like, yeah, I don't care. Like, come on, we're gonna win a championship. They won a championship and he left. That is like one of the funniest things that's like ever happened.
It was like it was literally like 2 a.m. the night of free agency. He was like, "Yeah, I'm gone. Fuck that. Like, get me Paul George and I'm out of here." Like,
it gave Raptors fans trust issues. That's why they are the way that they are.
Like, I don't blame them. Like it's gotta suck so bad for Masai. You make this all-in move. You do everything. You nail everything. It's just literally the best case scenario, and it's still not good enough. Like, it's just freaking sucks. But like Anthony Davis, same thing. He was going to LA, which makes that trade package they got for him even more insane.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's like one of the most crazy things where it was like they paid an extreme premium. That's probably, all things considered, the greatest trade package that's ever been put together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's either that or the Paul George one, but we don't know the results of the Paul George one. Yeah.
Well,
I think the result, like when as far as I think the results matter less than like. It's weird to say, but like the chance of what the package could become. Like,
sure. But like, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say, because we talked about this last week on the episode, and I'm like, I wouldn't even, like, even though we gave up all that shit, I wouldn't care we won the title the next year. It was worth it. Like, that's my thing, is like, if you win a title,
though. So
yeah. Oh, true. Fuck, I always forget that.
Yeah, the Lakers did not win a title, so
yeah, they never did.
But all in move for nothing.
Yeah. All right. Now look where they are.
This is why you got to be conservative, guys.
Yeah, they missed the playoffs multiple years with LeBron. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's so sad.
So, if you want to compare like the Ingram package that got sent, like Ingram, Lonzo, Josh Hart, and like 4 firsts, including the 4th overall pick in that draft, like that's definitely in terms of like what was included in the deal was like probably the greatest package of all time. We'll see what Shea turns into. Gallo was also still a very good player at the time. He still is, by the way. But
right.
And five first, I believe it was, and like 2 swaps or something. So like, it was a crazy package. But back to your, it was everything they could have traded. But back to your thing about
right. Well, and like, I mean, I guess the one would be like Paul George, but like at the time he was like kind of like coming off of surgery, and like, they could have got a better package for him than they want, but like people fucking killed Kevin Pritchard for what he got.
Oh, the Victor Oladipo Sabonis.
Yeah, Sabonis, because Victor wasn't that like all NBA guy yet. He hadn't made that leap. He actually looked like he was like barely an NBA starter, and Sabonis was just like a good, like young player. Like
he's like 20,
right? Mm-hmm. So, and I just don't. This is kind of different because, again, it is Kevin fucking Durant, and that's kind of the thing that everything always comes back to, where it's like I say I could argue everything, because I've heard from Celtics fans, and they make the good point of like the injuries with Kevin Durant, the fact that he's played average 30 games a season over the last 30 seasons, that's not good.
Yeah,
and like
I do actually have a counter to this.
Okay.
Over the last counter. It's only a 16-game sample, because obviously they got swept this year and they played 12 playoff games the prior year.
Right.
But he hasn't missed a playoff game.
That's true.
In a long time. And these last
since
2
the
years,
18-19 season, and
since he got hurt.
And before that, I don't think he like ever missed a playoff game, except for that 1 year he got hurt and was out for the rest of the season, like 10 years ago.
Yeah. So like the last 2 seasons, he's played over 40 minutes a game, over 16 playoff games. So I said 16, 40 minutes. And like the year before this season, he was arguably the best player in the playoffs up through that point.
Sure.
Like he was
48 minutes in one game. Like literally played the entire game.
Played the entirety. I think Game 7 went to overtime against the Bucks. Like he played. I mean, by the end of that one, he looked like he was a little gassed, but like I don't blame him for that. But so I will. The longevity thing I will counter with, like in the playoffs, he has been very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Like you saw what the defense that the Celtics were throwing at him for 4 straight games, like. And he was still torching him a bit. Like it was insane.
That's what there seems to be, like an idea out there that like the KD like no-showed that Celtics series, and I'm just like, what the fuck were you watching?
I mean,
he missed shots, but he was still killing them. Like what the hell? Okay, they almost won Game 1.
Yeah, so because that's the one Kyrie played well in. Like Kyrie is the one who no-showed the rest of the series. Like after Game 1,
And as our friend Matt said, they were running an AAU offense by the end of that. Like the Celtics had figured out whatever they wanted to do on offense. They basically had to go heavy ISO ball. Durant was physically exhausted from attempting to carry the team, really. And ultimately, it wore him down and they lost. And look, for Kevin Durant, it was a bad series for sure. Because we're used to, and which is why I feel like I'm going insane when we have these conversations. Like I'm listening to, Bill somehow didn't come back from vacation to record a podcast about this, which was the most shocking thing to me. Yeah. But it feels like every time I listen to these Kevin Durant trade things, it's like, you were all the people saying he was the best player in the world a year ago. And now you're saying you won't trade Scotty Barnes for him. And now you're saying you won't trade whatever prospect for him. And the reason why I think that the Celtics thing might be a little bit different is just because you guys have had the success. You've been to 3 Eastern Conference finals in 5 years, an NBA finals, almost won the finals. But there's also context to that. The Middleton thing, as much as you like to make fun of it, is true. Like Giannis is the best player in the world right now, in my opinion. I think that getting through the Bucks is going to be incredibly hard when he's on them for any team.
Right.
And especially when you consider the fact that, like, I guess my thing is what is your goal? Because if your goal is to contend for the next 5 titles, then keep Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
Keep Jaylen Brown and hope that Jason Tatum gets so much better that he can basically just be like what you want Kevin Durant to be.
Yeah. Right. So now we get into the part of this that is taken over Celtics Twitter. That is the armchair psychology of Jaylen Brown, and like one of the worst topics. It makes everyone like fucking insane. And that's part of the reason this has like been such nasty business to like discuss on like our side of things, because Jaylen is extremely polarizing to the point where, like, on the one hand you have everyone like on the one hand, everyone treats Jaylen. So there's some people who treat Jaylen like he's a DH on offense and the worst defensive player that's ever stepped foot on a court because he is like a little bad off ball sometimes. But like, I don't know. I mean, you still had the number 1 defense in the NBA. Like, he was their worst defender, but we're talking about a team that just had like dogs up and down the line. I don't know. I
had like 4 guys who could have made the all defense team.
Right, exactly. Really, I mean, you saw that chart, and it's like Rob Williams wasn't even on there, but you Smart, Tatum, and
Derek White, Mark
and
Smart, Tatum, Rob,
Derek
Al.
White. Yeah, I mean, Derek White is, he is very good defensively.
He
comes, exactly, and he comes off the bench now, so like, but I of the starting lineup, I meant like Horford, Rob Williams, Smart, and Tatum all are like all defense level talents.
Right, and it's just like, but you look at like all of the guys. And you just look at like Jaylen and like what he did. He showed up in a big way because that's still Jason Tatum's weakness. He's a really great player that I really think is fundamentally misunderstood in that I do not think he's the scorer everyone thinks he is, but he's an outrageous creator, passer, rebounder, defender, and I think he's still really underrated in all those other aspects of his game. But he also can get frustrated and can be very streaky. And what Jaylen's come up to do is he's been the big dick in the room a couple of times and, put up 30-point games. And that the finals, the Hospital Celtics finals, or Eastern Conference finals against LeBron, when the Celtics went up 2-0, that was on the back of some really great Jaylen Brown performances when he was like 21 years old, 22 years old, something like that. And I don't know. He's just been around so long that like I think Philly has sports radio guys, so you probably know what I'm talking about. Like Jaylen is like a sports radio guy target where it's like
sure.
Like that. Oh, does like he even want to be here? And everybody has like this psychology about like Jaylen and what he wants, and there was all this like weird stuff. He was coming out of the draft. Is he too smart to be an NBA player? Which is like
a lot of racist
insane.
Years later, insane bullshit. Yeah,
some of this stuff. So there's always been like weird discussions around him, and then like on the other side of the coin, you've got Celtics fans who are like, Jaylen loves it here. He will never leave. He will die in Boston.
Yeah,
you'll have to carry him out in a coffin.
If we trade Uncle Jaylen Brown, then he's going to miss Deuce Tatum's first day in kindergarten. And
exactly.
It'll change the course of Deuce's life.
Right.
Yeah, it will emotionally scar a child. Do you really want to do that? But so basically, what you're describing right now is. He's Ben Simmons if Ben Simmons was good in the playoffs.
Yes,
basically.
Yes.
Like he was our Ben Simmons. Like
exactly.
And could shoot threes. Am I right?
Yeah.
No,
his flaws are much less.
There's always been like a polarizing thing where it's like if you're a Jason Tatum guy, you like undermine what Jaylen Brown does, and like a little bit vice versa. Like it's been pretty much established that Jason Tatum is better now, but like it still goes on where you have you blame Jaylen for everything that fucking goes wrong. Right. Like him dribbling off his feet when like Tatum was turning the ball over, like, and he's a better passer. Like, yeah. Anyway, the long story short of what I'm trying to like articulate here is that like all of this undermines the main like triggering pathos here is that like the pathogen here is that Jaylen Brown only has 2 years left on his contract.
Right.
That's like, and everyone's been kind of wondering about that, about, what does Jaylen think of Boston? What does he think of his situation? And if he walks for nothing, what does that mean at that point? And that's where the Kevin Durant stuff gets interesting, because if Jaylen's the centerpiece and he's somebody who might leave anyway, and nobody's confirmed that. Nobody, I think Jared Weiss had a whole piece in The Athletic about why that's not a thing. But, if you are the Celtics and you do, stuff changes all the time. Kyrie Irving told everyone before the season he left that he was resigning here in a sold out stadium. Guys change their mind all the time about this shit.
I was running interference for him until after the Nets signing anyway.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I'm literally running interference for him right now.
Yeah, no, the best part about all this is that there was legendary cope for that season of it's fine.
Right.
He's not leaving. Yeah. The Kevin Durant stuff, not true. He said it before the season.
I was literally calling media pawns, not even jokingly. I was
not even as a bit.
It was not a joke. I was so I had to kind of eat. It was a valuable lesson for us.
Yeah.
Because I thought the national media was just drudging stuff up just to fucking do it.
Yep.
And we've seen that resurface this week with Shams and Woj. These guys are lying about this. No, they're not lying about this. We've been through this before. When national guys report things, there's usually a crumb of truth to it, unless it's Windhorse talking about LeBron or Ramona. If there's a little something there, you can kind of
Ramona talking about the Lakers.
Yeah, right. But when it's Woj or Shams, in general, when they're reporting this stuff, it is what it is. And I know that was a real offer, because what was reported was it was Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and what? A first round pick?
Yeah.
One first round pick, yeah.
Obviously, you're fucking offering that for Kevin Durant.
Sure. What's going on, guys? I am very excited to talk about Philly Sports Trips, once again, the official travel partner of the Ball podcast. Eagles training camp started today. The Eagles are going to be back very, very soon. The season is right around the corner. Apparently, Jalen Hurts looked awesome today. All I'm saying is my expectations are incredibly high, and if they don't make the Super Bowl, I'll probably cry. You should definitely get to some games this year with Philly Sports Trips. Once again, the official travel partner of the Ball podcast. They will be going to Detroit, Michigan on September 11th, the season opener. You got to be there. Go check out a game at Ford Field. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Then, on top of that, we have the upcoming road trip to Washington. They got a ton of buses filled with Philly fans. They're going to go down there, and the Bell and the Birdman, they're going to basically get into Carson Wentz's head during the game. It's going to be like an Eagles home game. They're going to do Foles chants the whole time. They're going to be cheering for Jalen Hurts, driving Carson Wentz. Absolutely insane. So you have to catch his first game against the Eagles as a Washington Commander. They have a book at phillysportstrips.com in the description and tell them we sent you. That offer is so once again, if there was ever a conversation, which every team in the NBA basically tried to have this conversation with the Nets. If there was ever a realistic conversation, Jaylen Brown was on the table, because they're not talking to you if Jaylen Brown isn't on the table.
Right.
It's Kevin Durant. We're not going to listen to your package of Robert Williams, Marcus Smart, and picks. It's just not going to happen.
And on the other side too, there's no way they'd offer Tatum.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's off the table from the
non-starter.
Yeah. So
when we did the pod before, Jack, I said Tatum's the last guy I wouldn't trade Kevin Durant for in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
now I'm here.
There were 6 guys you said that was 6 or 7 guys that you said you wouldn't trade, and pretty much everyone else, including Jalen, would be on the table.
I would trade John Morant for Kevin Durant.
You would?
I would.
Okay, yeah. Well, if you were the Memphis general manager, you probably wouldn't, because your goal isn't to win a championship.
Right, exactly.
Your goal is to keep your job for the next decade and not have the local media try to assassinate you.
In the realpolitik of the
Yes.
NBA being a business and not a championship winning thing, yes, you would not do that.
In the vacuum of I would trade this player for this player, people were outraged that they would say Devin Booker? How could you ever ask for Devin Booker? And I'm like, because it's Kevin Durant. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would do the same thing. But kind of back to the whole thing on this, which is, what is your goal? Is your goal to contend for the next 5 titles? And yes, Jaylen's contract thing complicates things, especially because he can't extend off of his contract since he didn't get that original max contract. That definitely adds an added layer, because if you're Boston, you're kind of in the dark. If things go really bad one season, if someone gets injured or if there's weird vibes again or whatever it is, maybe Ime's fucking messaging just isn't landing in year 3 like it was. And there's fucking
very possible, by the way.
Oh, totally possible that, like, when he's like, you're a piece of shit, be better, it doesn't hit quite as hard when you don't make it to the NBA finals.
Right, yeah.
And you're not like running teams off the court.
Right.
But so one of the more interesting podcasts about this is, funny enough, was the Tim Bontemps, the Tim Bontemps and Zach Lowe podcast. And this was the first time I've ever heard Tim Bontemps say a team shouldn't trade for Kevin Durant. And his argument was basically, the Celtics were running teams off the floor when Robert Williams was healthy.
Yep.
Why would they? And then they made it to the finals. Why would they do this? While also saying at the same time, I would have picked the Bucks to win the finals if Chris Middleton was healthy, and they'll have the same team next year, basically. But
that's always been my counter to the Chris Middleton thing, is because, Rob Williams wasn't healthy either.
Right.
Like,
but the counter to that is Rob Williams is not healthy a lot.
Right.
Like, Rob Williams gets hurt all the time.
Yeah.
If he were healthy, then this wouldn't be an issue. So if you look at Rob Williams, Al Horford, and Malcolm Brogdon, who you guys just brought in, and like, the Celtics will be better next year. They'll have another year of continuity. They'll have the finals confidence. They'll have all that shit. Plus, they just added Brogdon and Gallo to come off the bench. Like, I think that they'll definitely be a better team. But you're relying on a bunch of guys, Al Horford, who's very old, Robert Williams, who gets injured a lot, and Malcolm Brogdon, who gets injured a lot. Now, you're not going to rely on them as much with the team as it's currently constructed. But if you were to make a trade where it's like Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Grant Williams for Kevin Durant, that's when you're more top heavy and more reliant on your top 2 guys than you were before. But your top 2 guys are much better, just generally speaking. And
the other thing I want to point out here, Trill, is the 2 of those 3 names you just mentioned are centers. And when I say our centers, I literally mean our center. There's one is Luke Cornett is the only other center on the roster who can play that position.
Legend.
Yeah. So that's the Celtics by far biggest weakness. So if I would think in a Kevin Durant trade, you're probably giving up Robert Williams. I would ask for Robert Williams if I were the Nets, and that would need to be the next guy. I don't really know why they would want Marcus Smart, to be totally honest.
Would you rather give up Marcus Smart or Robert Williams?
Oh God.
Because I've thought about this, because my original offer was exactly what I just said when we did the original Kevin Durant trade podcast. It was Jaylen Brown, it was Marcus Smart, and Grant Williams. I agree with you that why would I want Marcus Smart, who's older, and I'm not contending anyway. Like, Marcus Smart's real value is to like a contending team. Maybe they want to flip him. I don't know what it is, because I think Marcus Smart on the open market would have a ton of trade value to a lot of teams. But Robert Williams is like younger on a better contract. He does have injury issues, and he's incredibly impactful defensively as well.
I just think Rob has also still has insane upside. Like, I'm a huge believer in Rob Williams. Like, I really think he could be a shooter someday. I really think he's got incredible feel for a big man, which is not something that, because Rob will sometimes blow rotations, and he's still he will make very loud mistakes on defense sometimes. So people think he's like not basketball smart. Absolutely not true. Like, he's a very good passer and has like elite feel for the game. So I would want him if I were the Nets. That would be who I would ask for it.
The thing about Rob, I mean, this is kind of off topic, but I just wanted to add it in there. Is like people always thought. I mean, and yes, he is a good shot blocker. He is a good defensive player. But like, what surprised me about Rob is I think his value and more of his, like Sam said, feel and IQ, which is a term I hate to use, but whatever, came on the offensive end. Like he. I mean, obviously he can jump out of the gym anyway, but like he has such good sense for positioning, getting rebounds. Sure. Right, obviously going off lobs and like Sam said, his passing too. So,
when he wasn't the same after the injury, that was a big difference for the Celtics offense in the playoffs.
Yeah,
really, he didn't have that element of vertical spacer who could add an extra little bit of passing, who could add the rebounding, like kind of just was a glue guy that made a lot of things work.
I don't think the Heat were a very good team, and we barely eked it out against them. I think that Rob injury really hurt us a lot more than people realize. Like, because I think that put a lot of pressure on Jaylen and Jason because you didn't have the rim pressure. The vertical spacing of Rob was like, I don't know, it was very important. Anyway, back to your question about would I pick Smart or from the Celtics end. It's so tough because I do think if I'm trying to win recently, I think I would, you would want to give up Rob because he is the injury risk. And, like.
This is your all-in move. So you're like.
It would put the floor on the thing and you would probably want Smart for the long run. Now, that makes a huge problem because now, like what I was kind of alluding to, you just have 30-something-year-old Al Horford and
right. That's a massive issue. But also finding a center that can play meaningful minutes in the playoffs is not easy. I'm not saying it is. But if you slide out to center and you hope that he can play 35 minutes a game in the playoffs, and then you're like, we just got to figure out the rest of the minutes. The Sixers have learned it is very hard to do that sometimes. Yeah. But also, Al Horford isn't your best player. Joel Embiid's our best player. It's a little bit different.
Right.
Like, replacing those minutes, like, you can figure that out to me a little bit, might be able to figure that out a little bit easier than finding a guy who's elite defensively at the guard position as a point of attack defender, a guy who coordinates a lot of the stuff that you do on defense, and then also has some offensive value, some scoring pop, a good passer in Marcus Smart. Like, I do think that Rob does, like, you could get a guy who probably does 70% of what Rob does and figure that out. Like, you could acquire another guy somehow is kind of my point here.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it wouldn't have the upside, obviously, but like
no, yeah, absolutely. So that's another part of this to me. Like, if you, because everyone keeps saying, well, like, the Celtics are no-brainers to contend for 5-6 years, whatever it is. Let's just assume Tatum and Brown are locked up and Smart and Rob Williams finish their contract.
The Brown contract is the big reason why that's not a thing. Right. Yeah.
And with Tatum, you can just offer him the Supermax. He's not going to turn that down. You can, like, it's even if he only comes back and forces a trade 2 years, that's like 5-6 years from now. Like, you don't even have to worry about that right now. Right. So let's just assume Jaylen resigns. Let's assume all that. Horford was very important for you guys in the playoffs.
Yes.
And he's 36, going on 37 next year.
Yeah.
Like, that is, so I've been trying to figure out if that's an argument for making the trade or an argument for not making the trade. Cause like, if it's theoretical in like, this might be Al Horford's last year where he can contribute at a high level, then yes, make the trade. Especially because, yes, Rob might have that upside, but like, with his injury history, it's totally possible he just never reaches his upside and he's just never that guy. And that, to me, doesn't make it an absolute no-brainer that the Celtics are legit championship contenders for the next 5 to 6 years. I'm not saying that they're not going to be in the conversation, but like, I'm talking about like making it to the finals, winning the finals, not like make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, whatever. Because what if the question mark with Rob, like with his injury stuff, if he never reaches his upside, Horford ages out, and then you're left with Tatum, who will get better, Brown, who will get better, but like, how much better do they need to be for the Celtics to be contenders for the next 6 or 7 years, I guess is my thing here.
Right.
I've always held the opinion that the number one thing that has prevented the Celtics from making a finals before this season was that Jason Tatum is not at the level of like, because to be
Kawhi Leonard and
to be a real finals team. And I mean, he was almost at this year. He was first team All NBA. He was one of the 10-ish best players in the NBA.
Yeah, he definitely was.
But to then win a finals, especially against Steph Curry, you need to be better. Which is, again, and I want to, like, I'm not like dogging Jason Tatum here in a negative
You
way.
fucking hate Jason Tatum, and
I want him out.
You trade him to the Lakers for LeBron or Anthony Davis or Russ.
But like over the past seasons, the number one thing that prevented them was that Jason Tatum was not good enough to be the best player on a championship team, which again is not an insult. It's incredibly hard to do that. There have only been a handful of guys. Exactly. Yeah, there have only been like the fact that we've been having this conversation is crazy. But at the end of the day, I think if Jason Tatum ascends to that level of true MVP caliber, because like you think about the past bunch of seasons, obviously this year Steph on the one side, Jason Tatum on the other. Last year with the Suns, but then Giannis, but they lost in embarrassing fashion. Yeah. They were up 2-0 or whatever.
There hasn't been a team that didn't have a surefire top 5 player since the 2014 Spurs, who had post Tim Duncan from his prime. Like he was still very good, and Kawhi was coming up. So it was like kind of that perfect synthesis in the middle. And then if you go back even further, it's like the 04 Pistons was the last team that really didn't have a top 5.
And they're such an anomaly in so many ways. Like
exactly.
They're off the chart. Yeah. That's like that you almost like can't if you're using the Pistons as an example, you almost
you've already lost. Yeah.
Right.
So say that all to say this is like at the end of the day, like if Jason Tatum does get to the level of that true MVP caliber guy, then I think you make the trade anyway, just because then having Kevin Durant as your second guy makes you a lot better, and you're not as worried about losing Rob.
You guys would be the only team in the NBA to have 2 top 10 players if you made this trade. Right. Let's just put it like that. Yeah. Think about every other team in the NBA right now. Like the only one that I could even think you could make an argument is like Paul George when he's at his best and Kawhi Leonard when he's healthy. Yeah. But like even then, like George is a borderline like top 12 guy. Like Kawhi, we don't know what Kawhi's status is. Like the Celtics would certainly have the 2 best top end talent guys in the NBA, and that would give them a shot to win the title the next 2 years. So if your goal is to win a title in the next 2 years, this would raise your championship odds from like 10% to like 20 to 25%.
I think they would be the, I don't want to say overwhelming favorite, but they would certainly be the favorite for this upcoming season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Depending on what you're giving back, I mean, you would still have a lot of depth. Like, and you can still, and there's still moves to make. Like, you know, like that's the other thing. Al Horford's making a lot of money. Like, you know, like if you really want to go in, if you can escape a Kevin Durant thing with like some of your picks intact, like you can package Malcolm Brogdon and Al Horford to get to the money for like a Bradley Beal or someone like that.
Right.
And
yeah.
It's like, you know, so you can really do the super team. Like,
yeah, and Bradley Beal also has that no trade clause now, so he can literally, if he says I want to go to Boston or Miami or Philly or wherever he chooses, he's going there. So you guys have all the leverage in that situation.
Right. So I guess just what I'm saying here though is like the thing is it's kind of being presented as like shortening the window for a higher chance with the Kevin Durant trade. And I don't think that's necessarily true with Jaylen Brown's contract situation. That's something that I think people need to consider. They need to take more seriously. I know Celtics fans don't want to hear it. And I don't think Jaylen is like pounding down the door to get out either. You just don't fucking know. That's the thing.
But at a certain point, this kind of thing, and look, Jaylen Brown is a very good player. But I've always said that he's in that tier of player that's very good that can get you better. Like, he's the 24th, 27th best player in the NBA, wherever you want to put him. And he's young enough that he can be in that tier to get you the superstar level player. Like, he's been in conversations for these superstar level players for so long because he's very good and still young. And because of that, his name's going to come up in every rumor, like you guys said. And due to that, it is going to fuck with the guy when he might think like they don't even want me here. And if you guys don't make the finals next year, let's say, or you don't make the finals the year after that, like I said it on Chucking Darts podcast I went on, I said I could easily see him being like, maybe I just want to go play in Atlanta. Maybe I want to go play in New York. Maybe I want to play in LA.
Right.
Like things change very fast in the NBA.
Right.
You can only be guaranteed like that window for so long. And like your guys' window is the next 2 years, pretty much no matter like best case scenario, Jaylen resigns and your window is extended by 3 or 4 years. But realistically, the next 2 years are your best shot at winning a title. And if you trade for Kevin Durant, then that raises that.
Yeah. Now, Brad Stevens has done a really good job at getting guys on pretty long contracts for pretty like manageable amounts of money. Like
we joke about it, but that is the market inefficiency of the NBA. Like we joke about like the nerd shit, but like it's true. Like getting a guy who is really good and valuable locked up for 4 years on a decent contract is like insanely valuable.
Just getting 4 guys of the caliber, like I think I don't even know where the thing is yet. So if you look at Rob Williams, Derek White, Marcus Smart, those 3 guys make about the same amount of money that Damian Lillard makes, and they're all under contract for at least through 2025.
3 or 4 years.
Yeah. So yeah, the Rob and Marcus are both under contract through 2026. So like that makes a huge difference too, because it's not like you're going to be the Warriors where you have to let your fucking Gary Payton and your Otto Porter and all those guys go because you literally can't pay them. They're going to be able to re-sign Grant Williams. Like if they want to. It really depends on how annoying Grant is. but like you can bring that guy back. Like the Warriors don't really have an option to bring a guy like that back. Like they can't pay $12 million a year for Grant Williams. They literally can't afford it.
So I guess the argument that guys that are against this that are Celtics fans would make, because I think so you guys agree you would do the original the proposed deal that the Nets turned down, which was Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and a first-round pick.
Yes.
If it's Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams, and 2 first-round picks, no. Okay. If it's
I'm like too close to this because Marcus and Rob are like very close, near and dear to my heart. Like so, I think this is like a Tyrese Maxey zone for like.
I know that's what I said. Like I've said it over and over. Is like Kevin Durant might be the one guy I trade Tyrese Maxey for. like that has become available. Like realistically,
right.
Giannis, Steph, Kevin Durant. Like there's like a handful of guys that I'm like I would be willing to part with Tyrese, but like Donovan Mitchell, I love him, but like. Sorry. Like he would make the Sixers an even better title contender next year probably if we acquired him. But at the same time, it would absolutely destroy me to trade Tyrese Maxey for him, and that's in that instance.
I also want to say too, though, the other thing about because I think a lot of times people are pointing out the thing about the Bucks, totally fair, and that happens a lot. I've been trying to point this out about the Warriors. It's never a guarantee a team is going back to the finals. You have to get through a lot of shit to get to the finals, and the West is going to be way worse for the Warriors next year. There's going to be real fucking teams out there, unlike this year, and you got to have like the West is going to be the good conference again next year. Which because
you're not going to play Luka and a bunch of like fourth men like Luka Brunson who's now gone, but like it's going to be the Nuggets, the Clippers, like
the Mavericks just made a Portland Trail Blazers style like conference finals appearance. Like it's not real.
Exactly.
It's a fugazi.
But Mickey.
It was a Mickey Mouse conference finals. But I also have no respect for the Miami Heat, so feel free to throw that back in my face about the Celtics in their conference finals. But like I do think that the Celtics have also made meaningful upgrades and had enough guys hurt and banged up that it's not like you're walking into a meat grinder and crossing your fingers if you go up against the Bucks. I think
they're co-favorites in the Eastern Conference. Like I think they're both because they have Giannis, and if Drew and Chris are healthy, they'll be in the conversation for the championship. And you guys would be the co-favorites now. I would say I've said it before. I think you guys have the best 1 to 8 in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a few of those guys are big question marks, and every rotation has that. But if your strength is built on your 1 through 8 being amazing to win a championship, you'd hope that you would be able to get good health out of those guys and hope that Al Horford doesn't die of old age in the middle of the season.
I'd also say next year we're going to have an actual normal bracket. Like last year was I know we swept the Nets, but that's still a fucking brutal like first round matchup. And like they were playing the Bulls. I know it was technically a longer series, but they were playing the fucking Bulls. Like
DeMar DeRozan Bulls, no Lonzo. Yeah, it was. It was.
And I just don't think the Bucks have good depth. I think the Celtics, unless a lot of shit goes wrong, I think they should be pretty heavy favorites to be the 1 seed, even ahead of the Bucks. Like I don't think the Bucks are going to be playing get the 1 seed game.
I actually think the Sixers have better depth than the Bucks. The Bucks just have Giannis.
Didn't the Bucks lose a rotation player? Or I
don't think they lost anyone. They added Joe Ingles, but he's not going to play next year.
They lost. Was it Grayson Allen?
No, they have Grayson Allen still. They didn't lose anyone that was like important. They brought back Wes Matthews, who's very old. They brought back George Hill, still on the team, who's very old. Should not be playing real minutes.
They did whatever money laundering they had to do to re-sign Bobby Portis.
They brought back the landlord Pat Connaughton.
He sucks.
We love him,
man. But anyway, I guess what I'm saying is like because resting on your laurels is a death knell in the NBA. But I think that the Celtics are bringing back a different enough team with more depth. They had literally 10 guys. They had 10 guys and 5 G Leaguers who signed 2-way contracts because the Derek White trade gutted our depth.
Yeah.
And then gutted it again doing the Malcolm Brogdon thing, but then we were able to sign Gallinari and bring in Sam Hauser. I think will be like a little bit better, but we're probably going to get another old guy. I think at some point, like Aaron Baines,
Hassan Whiteside.
Yeah, depending on how Aaron Baines
looks, an amazing center to come off the bench. If you guys get Hassan, I'm not even doing a bit. Like if you guys get Hassan Whiteside as your third center, I would be pissed.
Look, okay, wait. Let me. There are people who have disparaged Hassan Whiteside, and look, in the past, yes, but like the last couple of seasons, as a third center,
yes,
you legitimately cannot do much better.
It's the Andre Drummond thing where everyone said Andre Drummond fucking sucks, and it's like, yeah, when you think he's an all-star, he fucking sucks. Yeah. And then when he's playing 15 minutes a game or 20 minutes a game for the Sixers, he was great. You just can't expect much. They're both regular season guys too. They're not going to play in the playoffs anyway. So.
What was the Snapchat? Bundle up. It's cold out there.
It's a cold world. Bundle up.
Yeah. That would be him in Boston.
Ready or not.
Ready or not. That's so.
The video where he's literally just running in a circle around the Heat locker room.
That's a great
legend, dude. But yeah. So just let's get down to it. Let's wrap it up here. And would you do Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and let's say Grant Williams isn't included. Let's just say those two and 1 first-round pick for Kevin Durant, because that's realistically going to be the bare minimum that it's going to take.
What I was going to say is this point is moot because the Nets are not going to take that offer.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. Okay, so just the Nets will take this offer if Kevin Durant says, fuck no, I'm not playing for the team, or if we get into the season and some weird shit happens. Like, that's the only scenario in which, once again, I agree with your original point that I wouldn't even trade Kevin Durant because, like, I don't even know why I'm trading him. Like, it's a weird situation. Like, we're going to be pretty good next year. Like, but once again, in theory, that is the bare minimum you have to trade. So then in this scenario, you would still have Jason Tatum. You'd add in Kevin Durant. You'd have Rob Williams, Al Horford, Malcolm Brogdon. Okay, so right there, those 5 guys. I know there's injury issues. I know there's age issues. All that shit. You have 3 all-star level talent, 2 sub-all-star level talents, and then your bench is still Grant Williams.
Yeah.
Peyton Pritchard. Like,
so let me say this:
Derek White still on the team. Like,
basketball wise, yes. Like, yes, you absolutely should do this. Contract wise, basketball wise, it all makes sense. Like, I think psychically and karmically, I think sort of what happened to the Boston Celtics, what happened with Isaiah Thomas, I really believe is a spiritual energy for what we did to Isaiah Thomas. I think Gordon Hayward destroying his ankle. I think the Kemba Walker thing, Nick Nurse destroying Kemba Walker's knees in the middle of the All-Star game. All of that shit is
Kyrie breaking his brain.
Yes. All of that shit is residual bad juju from what happened when we did what we did to Isaiah Thomas. And I think trading Marcus Smart would be something that, while not identical, because Marcus has been paid and is, it's not as much of a nasty business as, IT.
He will certainly play more than one season again in the NBA.
Right. We'll play more than one season in the NBA. Played through his sister dying and an injury to end his NBA career to get no money. I just think that bad things would happen. And I have no reason for that. This is purely.
So you're a big basketball karma guy because you said before the playoffs, you came on a stream and you said the Bucks doing what they did is bad basketball karma. It's dodging a team to play the Bulls in the first round, and the Celtics, by being the Chad Alpha Ime Udoka team, by saying fuck it, we're not afraid of anyone, we'll win and make it to the finals, because I believe that's what happened. Chris Middleton got hurt because they're cowards, is what we're trying to do.
Yes.
But it's crazy because they should know this lesson, because they were the Chads the year before when they won it. They didn't duck the Heat. They could have ducked the Heat, and they didn't. They could have fuck that, bring that shit on, and they won.
Could have played I'm pretty sure they could have played the Knicks in the first round.
Yes.
Which would have been the easiest sweep in NBA history. Yes. And they chose to go up against the Heat, who were a good team, and they kicked the fucking shit out of them, and then they won the finals.
I really do believe, I'm gonna sound like a girl who puts crystals under her pillow, but there really is
Get your Jill Stein on.
There is some sort of karmic thing to be had here. I think it's.
I think light just went off. If you're listening to this, a light just went off when he said karmic. That was weird.
I think trading
Ghost
Rob
of Kyrie.
Trading Rob Williams would not be as bad karma, because Rob would get a chance to have a real young career.
Sure.
Trading Marcus Smart, you're kind of dooming him to bouncing around the league and being a trade chip.
Especially because he's been in these trade conversations. Both Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart have been in these trade conversations. Tatum was never really in trade conversations. I think the only time that I ever heard Tatum mentioned was before he became who he is. And it was the Anthony Davis stuff. And that was when the plan was Kyrie and AD, and maybe you trade Jaylen for another star and all that shit.
And there's just such a sports movie thing to it, where it's these guys are your
guys.
These guys are all your first round picks, Grant, Rob, Jason, Jaylen, Smart.
Their entire rotation, other than Rob and Derek.
Right. Rob. Al left and came back. This is, I do want to see this one more time. I might be asking for a demise. I think there are limits to this. If it's a good Kevin Durant trade, you take it. I can't see, if I'm the Nets, I have no reason to ever take a trade that I would offer as a Celtics fan. I guess that's why it's kind of a non-starter for me, because even though the Celtics are the team that can give the good asset in Jaylen Brown, who, like you were explaining, is a good fit for this, the Celtics are one of the only teams who's not incentivized to do this. That's why the Phoenix Suns made so much sense, because Chris Paul does put that ticking clock on your team. So
and
much.
The Ayton situation, obviously, too.
Right. There's the Ayton situation. There's you just got your ass fucking whooped in one of the worst playoff losses of all time, and you need to reset that.
Embarrassing. Yeah.
I just don't think there's much urgency on the part of the Celtics, and there are plenty of other teams who could offer more, who should offer more. I don't know what the fuck the Grizzlies are doing.
Yeah. Well, what would the Grizzlies even offer for Kevin Durant? Like Jaren Jackson? Like, are they? They're not offering Ja Morant. Like, they're just not going to do that.
I mean, they're not.
I think
they should.
More so
I would argue they should.
I think even like more
we're
so
gonna
than the Celtics. Like that would be like, I don't necessarily want to say a bad vibes move, but it feels like if they traded Jaren, like I don't know, it's just like a weird trade. Like if you trade like your budding young star. Which again, I totally think they should if they have the opportunity to trade Jaren.
Like I said, I went on when I went on Trucking Darts and we talked about the Rudy Gobert trade. I was like, well, I would have rather traded Karl Anthony Towns for Kevin Durant than done the Rudy Gobert trade. Like I just think that like pair Ant and KD and have a bunch of decent like role players around them. Like it's probably going to get you closer to a chip than whatever they're doing. But at the same time, what we're talking about right now is. Pelicans doesn't make any sense to me. They should absolutely do it. Like they're like they should be the team. The biggest reason why, and this is I talked to Andrew from Sports Drink, who is a big Pelicans fan, and the reason why they should do it is because no one gives a fuck about basketball in New Orleans.
Yes.
Like it would make basketball a thing there, similar to the way that like Dame made basketball more popular in Portland. Like. It would be, and CJ McCollum would be there for the ride too. But like,
or
it
he'd
would
be
it makes sense for KD though too. That's the other thing is like, KD is going to take a fucking beating if he goes to the Celtics. Even though he doesn't have anything to do with it, hypothetically, if he goes to another team that lost in the finals, like his legacy. If he goes to a little shitty town,
I forgot about that.
Contracted. Like if he goes to shitty New Orleans, which has almost had their team contracted, like
a shitty town, like New Orleans is
shitty
like
basketball town.
Yeah, New Orleans I was like, New Orleans is amazing.
No.
I love New Orleans.
Yeah, it's like giant Katrina fan, Sam Sheehan. I don't know why you're not fucking turning off from there. No, it's a lovely city, but a terrible basketball town. Like they've almost gotten contracted. They're probably the worst market in the NBA, bar none. Like you can't compete with the Saints in football and you know, even like LSU or anything like that over there. So bringing in Kevin Durant is a no-brainer. I think I don't know who I would want if I were the Nets, but if they would take Zion, I would just give them Zion. Like
well, they can't trade him now because they extended him, but I agree. I said the same thing. I would trade Zion. I would trade Ingram. Either or one of them, and I still think you'd be championship contenders. Like either way,
I don't know. Something like that makes way more sense to me, and you could get more than you would dealing with the Celtics, who are operating from this position of caution that we've just broken down. Where why rock the boat? Like you have a ton of reasons to think you don't need to do this, and you need a team. You can get more assets and more stuff back from a team that does need to do something. And I just don't think that's the Celtics.
So I understand that. And I just want to leave it on this. It's kind of what we've been talking about. And me and Sam definitely have been brain poisoned by what I call dunked on brain, contender brain, hinky brain, Maury brain, whatever you want to fucking call it.
Right. Yeah.
Where this is a competition to see who is the best, and getting to the mountaintop is the only thing that truly matters.
Right.
And it's funny I brought up CJ McCollum because when CJ McCollum was traded from the Blazers to the Pelicans, he wrote this like letter to Portland about like the decade about how like he became a man in Portland and like grew up there and saw like a ton of shit and like everything that was like human emotional element of the game of basketball and like just being a human being really. And I couldn't help but think like this is the guy that was in every fucking trade rumor for like 10 years while he's in Portland. Nate Duncan is saying he would salary dump him, like all this shit. But like at the end of the day, that stuff matters if you're a sports fan. And it's the same reason why you have this emotional connection to Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, and the same reason why like the Grizzlies would never trade Ja Morant.
Right.
There's more to sports than just winning championships.
Right.
Like I would rather watch Tyrese Maxey play for the Sixers for the next 10 years than win a title with like some fucking guy that like is very good, but like I might not really like. If we traded Maxey for Kyrie tomorrow, we'd have a better chance, but I wouldn't feel good if we won the title with him as much as I would watching Maxey develop and become like a player here in Philly.
Tyrese Maxey's in that, baby.
Please don't. Unless we're getting Kevin Durant. It's different if we're getting Kevin Durant. But that's my whole thing here is like what you guys are talking about is like you have the emotional connection. You've already made the finals. Like you've done pretty much almost all of the hard part. You might as well just ride it out and see where things go. And if in a year from now you think Jaylen Brown's going to leave, you can still trade Jaylen Brown and get someone back that's really good and still continue to contend.
It's a perfectly like normal thing to say. No bit, by the way. Perfectly, because when I say something like that,
I say something is perfectly normal. I'm about to say the most insane thing you've ever fucking heard, but
it's a perfectly normal thing to just say like, I just want to see my guys. I just want to watch my guys.
Right.
I've watched Jaylen Brown since he was a literal teenager. I've watched Jason Tatum since he was a literal teenager. Marcus Smart is the longest tenured Celtic since Paul Pierce and Rajon Rondo. Like guys that are like Celtics pantheon guy. Well, maybe not Rondo. We'll see. I don't know. But.
Like I got sober watching Marcus Smart.
Exactly. Like no, but like literally,
real thing. Yeah.
Like we were watching this dude play his ass off for like the 8th seed.
Yeah.
Like
Bill Simmons was trying to trade him for Tyreek Evans.
Right. They were losing by 50 to the Cavs in a conference finals game, and we were watching this dude play, and it's just like
the villain Evan Turner.
Right, like
76ers All-Star. Evan Turner was.
It's a perfectly like totally fine thing to say. Like I just like one, like you said, Joe, like they made it to the finals. They could do it again. Things change in the NBA fast, but they can do it again. They have proven that they've done it once. They can do it again. That doesn't imply that they're going to do it again, but they can do it again. But and it's also a perfectly normal thing to say like I want Kevin Durant on my basketball team because he's Kevin Durant.
Yeah, exactly. Like that would be pretty fucking cool too.
Right. It's the people who are in the middle ground of like making stupid things up to say that they don't want to trade for Kevin Durant, or making stupid things up to say they want to trade for Kevin Durant.
Sure.
Where,
like there actually is a lot of gray area here in this circumstance. But And it's funny that Kevin Durant is the guy because he's kind of like realized the hard way that like sometimes contender brain and winning a championship doesn't do much for you, even if you're the finals MVP twice in a row.
I will say, if 11 months from now, 10 and a half months from now, the Celtics with Kevin Durant have just hoisted a banner. You can scrub everything I've said this entire hour and a half. Like I'm gonna be celebrating. Lifelong Celtic Kevin Durant. He's been a Celtic since 2016. Like
our number one guy.
Our guy, KD.
He's from Waltham, Massachusetts native Kevin Durant.
I gotta say, I've said this earlier. I still really want KD to go to the Raptors just because I think KD's posting combined with Raptors fans would be one of the most toxic mixes. It's just like fertilizer and gasoline.
Someone would die.
Yeah, multiple people would die. Like someone would like at KD, like, KD, I'm a huge fan. Can I help out with your branding advice? And he'd like reply like, beat it, kid. And then like the Raptors fans would like detonate his fucking like fuel tank on his car, like in Casino. It would be like the opening scene in Casino, like a 17-year-old kid exploding because Raptors fans put the car bomb.
What's the fake Jurassic Harry or whatever?
Jurassic Harold. Yeah,
there's a real guy, Jurassic Harold.
Jurassic Harold, Jurassic Harold would show up to his house at night and do an IRA style car bomb.
I wish there was like a Twitter archive so I could search and see what happened to Jurassic Harold to get him suspended.
I think
the Wayback Machine.
If you don't quote me on this, but I think if you just if you have the exact, and I don't know if it works with handles, but if you have the exact text of a tweet, you can Google it and it will show up even if that account was suspended.
Oh, interesting.
We don't know any of his tweets. We just think
that's
Jurassic
the
Harold. Yeah, he
I want to go to the Library of Congress. It's the first thing I'm doing when I get access to the Library of Congress is asking for the Jurassic Harold files, and they like put me in an elevator down like 90 stories.
You're
and
like
it
that
opens
scene
up.
in The Incredibles when he goes up to the big computer.
Right.
It's like, I need the Jurassic Herald file.
Right, except then just Ennis Freedom comes up and kills you. But
No, I'm in the like where they put the Ark of the Covenant in Raiders of the Lost Ark. and Enos is there and he's like, yeah, when they canceled me, they put me down here. So
All right, guys. I think that is a good place to wrap it up. I appreciate you guys coming on. It got a little bit unhinged towards the end, as it usually does. But you guys can, I'll put their links in the description so you guys can follow them. I know you guys all that listen to this podcast love the Celtics, so you can check out all of their great tweets about the Celtics and how they're going to win multiple titles.
yeah, Sixers fans will love it.
I've been so busy with work recently. All of my tweets are just me playing Pokemon Unite. So
Oh, cool.
We
Well,
love
yeah.
Pokemon Unite. Yeah.
Jared Allen flow.
That's right.
Peace.